Welcome to this explainer. Today, we're diving into something that is absolutely fundamental to our very existence. We're talking about India's incredibly rich biodiversity, the really intense threats it's facing right now, and the urgent, ongoing fight to protect our ecological life support systems. If you've ever wondered how a rapidly developing nation actually balances its growth with keeping its most precious natural assets alive, well, you are in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
To really wrap our heads around the scale of this, we have to start right here. You see, India isn't just ecologically diverse. It's literally one of the absolute richest countries in the entire world when it comes to biological diversity. We are talking about an immense living heritage. It's this vast, intricate web of life that sustains our water, our air, our soil, the whole shebang. But, as we're going to see, this living web is under a level of stress we've never really seen before. So, here is our roadmap for today's explainer. Number 1, the stakes. Number 2, the threat. Number 3, top-down solutions. And number 4, bottom-up solutions. Let's start with Section 1, the stakes, categorizing life on the brink. Okay, to measure the health of all this wildlife, scientists use the IUCN stress categories. Think of it kind of like a medical chart for nature. Sure, we have normal species with totally stable survival levels, but the real red flags are in the tiers below that. You've got endangered species, like the black buck, which are actively facing extinction right now. Then there are vulnerable populations, like the Asiatic elephant. They're declining so fast they could easily become endangered very soon. And then you have rare species, like the Himalayan brown bear, just sitting precariously on the edge with dangerously small populations. Now, this brings us to two absolutely crucial definitions for understanding biodiversity loss: endemic versus extinct. Endemic species are the ones found only in highly isolated areas, like the mithun over in Arunachal Pradesh. This isolation makes them incredibly fragile. And then, extinct. Extinct species represent the ultimate tragedy. These are species that just aren't found anymore, even after exhaustive searches of their known habitats, like the Asiatic cheetah. It's a harsh reality, but once they're gone forever. Which leads us to Section 2, the threat, the vanishing forests. Take just a second and let this number sink in. 26,000. Between 1951 and 1980 alone, over 26,000 square kilometers of forest area in India was just wiped out. And it wasn't just cleared, it was directly converted into agricultural land. I mean, that is a massive, jarring transformation of the landscape in just 3 short decades. It systematically removed the homes of millions of animals, all to feed a rapidly growing human population. But farming is really just one piece of the puzzle here. We also have to look at the dual pressures of modern industry, development projects versus mining. On one side, you have these massive river valley initiatives, like the Narmada Sagar project, which have literally submerged thousands of hectares of vibrant forest. And on the flip side, dolomite mining is severely threatening the natural habitat of places like the Buxa Tiger Reserve in West Bengal. Both of these things drive human progress, for sure, but they also actively destroy our ecological life support systems. We also need to factor in some historical practices that add to this pressure. Shifting cultivation, often known as joom, is still practiced in certain tribal belts. And look, while it's deeply cultural, this slash-and-burn method heavily contributes to ongoing forest degradation. It basically adds yet another layer of stress to ecosystems that are already super fragile. Let's shift gears to Section 3, top-down solutions, government action. So by the early 1970s, alarm bells were really ringing. It became terrifyingly clear that without massive intervention from lawmakers, India's ecological diversity was heading for a total collapse. And you can actually see this rapid awakening in government policy. In 1972, the Wildlife Protection Act was a total game changer. It banned hunting and protected key habitats. The very next year, 1973, saw the launch of Project Tiger, and then by 1988, Odisha passed the very first resolution for joint forest management, which kind of hinted at the awesome community collaboration we'd see later on. Let's zoom in on Project Tiger for a minute, because it's fascinating. Tigers are what we call a keynote species. Essentially, if you protect them, you inadvertently protect the entire ecosystem they rule over. It's a domino effect. And this wasn't some small, isolated effort. Huge swaths of territory were mobilized as tiger reserves. We're talking Corbett in Uttarakhand, the Sundarbans in West Bengal, Bandhavgarh in Madhya Pradesh, and Sariska in Rajasthan. These spots literally became the heavily guarded front lines of conservation. Now, to manage all this land effectively, the government relies on strict classifications.
Picture it like a pie chart. More than half, 55%, are reserved forests. These are the crown jewels, folks, strictly locked down and managed for conservation. Another 33% are protected forests, which are explicitly guarded by the Forest Department to prevent any further depletion of the resources there.
That leaves the remaining 12%, known as unclassed forests. These are essentially the other forests and wastelands that don't quite fall under those strict reserved or protected banners. And what's interesting here is that these actually belong to both the government and private individuals or communities. They're heavily concentrated up in northeast India and over in parts of Gujarat.
All right, moving into Section 4, Bottom-Up Solutions, the Power of Community. You know, the really profound truth about conservation is that it isn't just a government job. You can't just pass a law and magically save a forest. You need the people. Just look at these incredible grassroots victories. The Chipko movement didn't just resist logging. They proved that community afforestation is totally viable. The Bij Bachao and Dolan saw farmers in Terry achieve amazing crop diversity without using destructive synthetic chemicals. And then you have joint forest management, which formally gets local communities actively restoring degraded forests. It perfectly marries top-down funding with that crucial bottom-up local knowledge. And honestly, sometimes communities don't even wait for the government to step in. I absolutely love this story. Over in Ular, Rajasthan, the residents of 5 different villages just joined forces and declared 1,200 hectares of forest as their very own sanctuary. No way, right? They didn't ask for permission. They set up their own strict rules against hunting, banned outsiders from exploiting it, and effectively formed a citizen-run fortress for wildlife. Talk about taking matters into your own hands. And this urge to protect extends really deeply into the cultural DNA of India. There's something called sacred groves. These are specific patches of forest that are left completely, 100%, untouched by local people. And it's not because of a government mandate or a fine, but because of deep, deep religious beliefs. That genuine reverence for nature basically acts as an invisible, impenetrable shield around these vital pockets of biodiversity. So, we've covered a lot of ground today. We've seen the sheer, massive scale of India's living heritage, the terrifying threats that are wiping out these forests, the laws stepping in from the top, and the absolute localized power of everyday people fighting from the bottom up. Which really leaves us with one final thought as we wrap up this explainer. As top-down laws and bottom-up communities fight tooth and nail to save our ecological life support systems, what role will you play in protecting our living heritage? Think about it. Thanks so much for joining me, and I'll catch you in the next one.